Hello, this is Liv and Robyn for an episode of Poor Decisions. We've got Todd here from the Four Shells Kava Lounge, and Todd's going to be telling us a little bit today about where he comes from, his journey in kava culture, just generally having a bit of a chit chat. Yeah. Before we get into any conversations, as Poor Decisions true fashion, we'll start off with a drink review. So Todd, do you want to tell us a little bit about what we're drinking today?
Well, before we talk about it, we should have some.
We should have some.
We should have some.
In true kava culture.
That's what, yeah. It makes it easier for me to talk about it anyway.
Perfect.
Oh, thank you.
I'm very excited for this.
Cool. Me too.
It's been a very exciting day, to be fair, the whole build up.
Also, I was chewing on a beautiful little lolly at the beginning here. This voice here you're hearing is Robyn.
Yeah. Oh, because I always forget. Some people won't be watching. I always forget that. But
yeah, and they won't know who we are anyway unless we have it on our head.
I think they'll tell my voice.
Yes, if you didn't know, that was Todd. Should also explain that is how we're supposed to drink this.
Yeah.
We're not just extremely
thirsty.
Yeah, one of the funny things with kava is I always tell people, like, you don't want to rush with kava, but then I'm like, but you shoot it right back, and they're like, you just said don't rush. But yeah, part of it is if you sip on it, the kava lactones, active ingredient, will be sinking to the bottom of your shell, and the last sip will just be a thick, it'll be chalky, I think, for lack of a better term. But yeah, this is kava. This is our kava space, Four Shells Kava Lounge. We call this the Fale Talanoa. It's kind of more set up like a traditional sit on the floor space, even though we're not sitting on the floor right now. But yeah, kava, where do I begin? It's a drink from the Pacific Islands. It's been around for 3,000 years, and people drink it to relax and socialize in a very calm way. It's a mild soporific and an anti-anxiolytic. So it's like a sleep aid. It doesn't make you fall asleep, but it kind of eases anxiety. But it's a bit of an abstract thing because sometimes people are like, oh, it doesn't taste nice. What do you drink it for? You drink it for the effects. And I'm like, well, not really, kind of. But like, people don't understand it until they experience having kava and sharing it with people. There's a lot of different kava derivative products, like there's kava capsules and nasal sprays and all that. But we just deal with this because would we sit here and have a meaningful like experience or like having pills from a little bowl or something? Like it's sharing from the bowl. This is called a tanoa or a kumete, or just simply a kava bowl. And this is my favorite one of all time. This one was carved in the 70s and it's hosted a lot of really cool.
Oh, thank you for sharing with us today. It is very beautiful.
A lot of conversations had around it, I'm sure.
Yeah. But kava is a thing. I could talk about it for 2 hours, like at a moment's notice. So I'll try to keep it.
Perfect.
I'll try to keep it concise when possible.
We don't want that. We want to hear all about it. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have seen it, heard about it, and feel like it's something they're interested in knowing more. Like, can I be a part of this? How do you drink it? Again, why? And because I've read online, is it a depressant? It's not. Is it a depressant?
No, it's not in the way that alcohol would be.
Okay.
With kava, if you're drinking good quality kava, the next day after you drink it, you'll wake up feeling fine. Actually, in some cases, even better, like more well rested.
Had a great sleep.
You will have had a great sleep. I know the name of your show is Poor Decisions, but I've never made a poor decision after drinking kava. It slows you down. It like your mind is still clear and you're calm. And I've never woken up. I've never woken up and been like, oh man, I better apologize to so and so because I think I remember saying
all the anxiety,
like a mean joke about him or something. Like kava is very misunderstood. I think a lot of people they assume it's alcohol or it's like weed or like it's. The way we have kava in the traditional context is more easy to explain to somebody who's like maybe from the Middle East or somewhere where they have a strong tea drinking culture. because drinking tea together is not like, oh, let's get fucked up. Like it's like, oh, we're sharing. We're just like facilitating.
You're
the
wrong
time.
there. I'm from England.
Oh well, I don't know what you guys put in your tea, but
But that was my perception of kava, because I'd obviously, I've never heard of it before, probably 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And I thought, because when Nelson was coming here all the time, I thought it was kind of like a weed substitute. Obviously, as well, in Canada, weed's legal. Everybody smokes weed or has a weed product. Not everybody, but a lot of people. So I thought it was kind of like that when said it's like relaxing, until I experienced it and then sat here for 5 hours having kava. Having like just really deep, meaningful conversations, just kind of flowing and not wanting to go anywhere else.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of opened me up to it. But yeah, I absolutely had the perception that it was like weed. Like, especially because it's from a root, hey?
It's from a root, and this is the thing. People think of kava as a substitute, like, oh, it's a good alternative for alcohol or weed. I'm like, it's best not to think of it as an alternative to anything. It is what it is, and people that get to know kava know it to be a superior thing than what else is out there. I mean, that's...
Well, I was to say, I kind of agree with the fact when you replace one thing and when you take up another thing, that's also just asking to continue having an addiction or some kind of problem anywhere in your life, and you're just filling time. One of my questions around it was, what about mixing like alcohol, weed with kava or any other drugs or whatever you can take in? What kind of experiences have you had there or know of around people?
I haven't personally experienced any of that. I mean, I learned about kava exclusively in the Pacific. I first had it in Fiji in 2004 and thought that was cool, but it was just like we just drank kava. It was made known to me that this isn't something you mix with alcohol or whatever. Then I met my wife in 2008. She's from Tonga, and then I was just drinking kava with Tongans, and it was only in that way. So it was always more in the cultural space, but I am aware that people that are going to naturally think of kava in the same category as like alcohol, weed, legal highs, or whatever, are going to think of it like that. Like, it's, we can use this as a tool to get to a certain place, right?
Lack of inhibitions afterwards.
Yeah, but the beauty about kava, it really is about the journey rather than the destination. The kava sessions that are the best, it doesn't always have a lot to do with the kava itself and how good that is. Obviously, that is important, but it's the people you have it with and the time you spend. Like, if those sessions go long, like you said, you were here for 5 hours, you didn't even realize it was 5 hours. It was just the conversations were so good, so deep, and
you just fall into it.
Yeah, and that's it. And then by the end of the night, you're so relaxed that your jaw just kind of is lazy, and you're like, I think I'm good now. I'm gonna go.
A lot of talking.
Yeah, there's that too.
Just been exercised.
I've got a motor mouth though.
Oh yeah, you do. But that's not bad.
But it absolutely was. It kind of put you in. It kind of put me, anyways, and just. It was also just a really comfortable space because we were sat outside in the alleyway.
Yeah.
Which is really nice, by the way, for anyone who hasn't been around this area. It sounds like she's just going out to the alleyway to talk for 5 hours.
No, we sat out there. It was a nice evening. There was a nice sunset. And it was just probably very serendipitous as well that he and I were on like the exact same wavelength. But it was good timing, and I don't know. He had just really deep conversations and had absolutely nowhere else to be in the world and didn't want to be anywhere else.
And that's it. Yeah, that's how I can tell people who have experienced kava properly. A lot of times I'll meet people and they've had kava and they're like, oh, I just can't get past the taste. And I'm like, that tells me you haven't felt the effects. I have never met anyone that continues to complain about the taste after they've felt kava properly.
I don't mind the taste at all, but I like earthy taste. I feel like I just enjoy it. And I also like the numbing mouth feel you get from it. I've always enjoyed that. Like,
that freaked me out at first.
I love it.
No, now I'm just used to it.
It's comforting now. You know where the journey's going.
I do.
I really enjoy it. I said the first time, actually exclusively until a few weeks ago, the only times I'd come into here was to grab the jugs to take home, and I would just sit in the bath with it with my jugs, which is, I have everything in the bath. And that's where I do
jugs and jugs in the bath.
Jugs and jugs in the bath. And then do a nice little bit of writing afterwards. And then the only other times I've had kava have been with my son's family and my brother-in-law, who is Pacific Islander as well, and he would make it at home. And that was a really nice evening and completely different to how I'd experienced it prior, which was solitary.
Yeah. Yeah, drinking kava alone can be a little bit of a controversial thing. Because in the islands, Fiji, Tonga, certainly, nobody does anything alone ever. And that's one of the funny things for me, growing up in the States. I grew up in Pennsylvania, and, like my mom would go do stuff by herself. My dad would go do stuff by himself. I mean, it did things together too, but Tongans always doing things together. So, and the same goes for kava. Like, why in that way of thinking, why would somebody sit by themselves and drink kava alone when they could have it with people? When you're from a culture where so much emphasis is put on the community. I mean, I have kava by myself sometimes, but it's like a very different experience. It's more just like a little bit, maybe a little bit stronger, and it's just to help my mind switch off, because like everything's so go these days. You know?
Especially running a business as well.
Yeah, oh man.
Well, I found it very relaxing to have it like in the bath, have a little bit of like those nice unwinding thoughts and just chill out a little bit.
Good, yeah.
But I like the experience of it being around the bowl more. It's, I don't know, you know me, I love a ritual. I love a ritualistic moment of any kind.
Yeah, and that's it. Another, I guess, kind of misconception is that people think to drink kava is to engage in ceremony. Like people will say, they'll call sometimes and say, "Oh, my friends and I really want to have a kava ceremony," and I'm like, well, I mean, you can come here and drink kava, but unless it's for a particular reason and done by a particular person from the cultures that are experts in those ceremonial traditions, we don't do ceremony, right? It would be like weirdly performative and like culturally appropriate.
And really not what you guys are about either, right? You're not going to be on something, just creating the space for people to have that experience. Yeah,
that's right. And we have had ceremonies here, but it's always done by certain people for certain reasons. But there still are elements of, I guess, ceremony, you could say, that are present in casual kava drinking. Like you'll see some of the guys next door, like they'll clap before they take the shell. And, but yeah, we're not like.
What's that about?
Yeah, I was about to ask.
So that mostly you see that with Fijians. So somebody would serve a shell, and before you receive it, you would clap once and take it and drink it, and then everybody would clap together twice. In Tonga, when you're sitting around and somebody wants another round to be served, like anybody can do it. Somebody can just clap one time. It's like a hollow clap. It's called a fu, and it's like that. And then the person serving says, "Okay, another one." And the origin of that I read about is quite interesting. In ancient times, actually still today in Vanuatu, they're drinking fresh green kava, and in the custom villages, they perceive that when they drink kava, this is almost like a shamanistic connection. They drink kava, they're transcending partway into like the realm of spirits, right? Into the ancestors. So they would experience the effects of kava like it's a half death, right? Like which in Western society is like, oh, why do you want to feel that? But to them, it's like, no, I'm transcending into the realm of my ancestors. And then at the end, you would eat food, and those with bodies eat food and come back down to this realm. But the clap is a gesture to alert any spirits nearby that the kava is about to start.
Oh, so they'd be ready for the fact that we're going to be coming into your place a little bit.
Yeah.
I love that. It's kind of I'm asking you as though you know this 100%, but like I've heard with ayahuasca, don't they also eat something at the end to kind of bring you back or something? I think you do at the end of it.
Yeah, probably.
Obviously, it's a very different thing entirely, but
I guess also
again,
with ayahuasca, you've just thrown up everything. So
I
don't know.
Yeah,
I've never.
Just like it's probably also just to like bring you back to life a little bit. But I mean, in the same, bring you back to life a little bit. So you're entering a realm. You're coming back again. It's like going through that veil.
Ayahuasca is one of those things that's very much in that shamanistic realm. Kava today in most places has kind of, I guess, lost that connection a little bit.
More social.
It's a social thing, but people come together around it and have very important discussions. The kava space is what we would call a cultural classroom. Like a friend of ours, he's a researcher, Tongan guy, Edmund Fehoko, wrote a paper about young Tongan males, like teenagers, that engage in kava in a traditional setting They learn to speak Tongan, and they don't get in trouble. Like their rates of going to prison or having issues like that is way lower because they're around the older people. They're learning the stories, the language, all that stuff.
Yeah. What I really liked about it, and I think why I like kava and why I've started to get a little bit more into it, is I really like conversations. I like talking. I like meeting new people, having those deep conversations rather than just like chit chat. And again, I love to do this over a beer or a wine, but you can do that over one beer or one wine. You can't do that for 5 hours.
People try.
The deep conversation ends up a little bit more down a little bit of a windy road until you're slurring your way into nonsense and going, what are we saying again?
But I can totally see that, like the crime rates and stuff dropping, because you're also not sitting around talking about, I mean, you can probably, and I'm sure it's happened that people talk about, I don't know, the weather and just chit chat, but it's when you also have those deep conversations, you're learning more, and you're going like past that surface level and getting your emotions out and getting more connected to yourself.
Yeah.
I think when you're connected to yourself, you understand more and you act out less. That's my philosophy.
Yeah. The on that topic of the conversations around kava, I mean, I said earlier, this is what we call the fale talanoa space. So fale in Tongan, and actually many Polynesian languages, is like house or place of. And talanoa is a Pacific-centered style of conversation. It's basically, it's not structured. There's no time limits. I mean, it's really in the spirit of kava.
Island time.
Island time. You like the conversation goes wherever it goes. There's no agendas. Everybody's accepting of everybody, and it's very calm. So that's why we named it the Fale Talanoa.
I love that, and I do chuckle a little bit because we prepared a list of questions, and it's like completely against.
Yeah, but this is also what I wanted. I was like, don't worry about the questions. But it's because I live on island time, and you know,
I live on stressed person, anxiety.
And to be fair, I think a little bit of both is kind of needed. It's kind of one of the good things about the two of us together is that we need a little bit of both. Because I lived way too much on island time, probably.
I
say probably, and she's like, definitely.
I'm just like a ball of anxiety and stress that I need things.
Yeah, I arrived and we were doing all this. I arrived into the setup space and I was like, hey, how are we going? So excited. And she was like, can you help me move things? And I was like, whoa, where do you want things?
I got like my kids running around.
And, they were so great.
That's one thing
They were so great.
Yeah, my daughter, she's like,
your daughter was so sweet. She was like, are you the stylist? And I was like, thank you, but no.
That's one thing I really like coming into the Pacific Island world as a cultural outsider. Like in like the Palangi, Pakeha, white people world, whatever. If you turn up to something, you have your kids. They're like, you know. But like Pacific Islanders, like, oh,
that's been like a
bring
huge.
Your kids,
that's kind of one of the main things that I've loved about here, because I have a 4-year-old and he's Maori, and my favorite thing ever is. It takes a village is actually that's real here. Like that's not like in England. It's not like my family's great, but it's not the same way with again like English families and stuff. It is down to the parents. It's down to childcare. It's down to getting a nanny and au pair, like whatever it is. You're asking for help all the time, whereas with the family, it's like, oh, just leave him here. Like my son's been in the Coromandel with his grandparents like the last 4 weeks. And I'm getting him next week, and I'm always thinking like that I'm intruding on their time, and that this is, something for them, and it's not. They're just like, no, we love having him here. Like, whānau is whānau. Like it's family is family. It's family, and it really is inclusive. And like all my friends here are like, bring your son along. Like you can just bring him, and I know that that's true, and they're not just saying that so that I can come, like it would be for other mums back in the UK.
Yeah, it's just a natural thing for like families. What does it say about a society when like kids are to be hidden away or like?
I know.
They're
not equals.
Healthy.
That's how they're like treated. They're not people. It's like, but we're all in like these. How do I say this? Like temporary roles. Like we're in temporary roles right now. Like our kids right now, they are only smaller than us. Like. Less ready for the world right now, but eventually they're going to be in the same roles as us or different roles to us, and they're equal the whole time. Like they are completely our equals the whole time, and we deserve to give them that respect and give them the space to be in our spaces too. Obviously with limitations for their safety, but some parents take it too far forever that they put restrictions on their kids even as adults because they don't want to lose grip of them, because they think they're going to lose part of themselves if their kids don't live up to what they need their kids to be. And I think
then there's the other swing side of that. There's some that have absolutely no rules.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's about finding balance.
It's finding that balance.
For sure.
Yeah,
My kids, we take them a lot of places. I let them be pretty free, but they know when I get that tone of voice. I can't control
I'm
it.
gonna scare myself.
I can't control it.
Like only like half an hour into the podcast, and you're like, talk to me like you're my father. This is Kava doing to her.
It's funny that you said, I prepared a list of questions, but I never said, we have to have a talanoa, but that's what happens around Kava, right?
I think we were very conscious that, because like say the last time we had a chat, that was a very organic conversation, and I figured it would be that. But because I'm such an anxious person, I have to over-prepare for everything, just in case.
That's better to be over-prepared than under-prepared.
You're
We have a saying in the UK,
American.
which is actually really a naughty saying because of what it is, but it's called Sod's Law, which is actually quite a naughty, because it comes
Sod's
from,
Law.
because it comes from sodomy, because it means to like, fuck yourself, basically. But Sod's Law is like, if I take an umbrella outside today, it won't rain. But if I leave the umbrella at home, it will. Like, it's just the way it is. So if we under-prepared, we'd have sat down and been super awkward, and that would have been the way it went. But because we've over-prepared, we're going to have a really nice flowing conversation. It's just the way it is.
That's also Murphy's Law.
Yeah, it is also Murphy's Law, yeah.
The Americans have made it less
That's right.
offensive or something.
We were just talking about Interstellar yesterday.
We were.
Murph's Law.
There's a really freaking annoying fly that keeps buzzing around the Kava. I feel like the whole town will be like this.
This poor thing's probably like, I am one of the spirits. I've come from the spirit.
Oh, dude, it's driving me nuts. Like, that's this time of year. There's like, I'll let
We
it
don't want it on
drink some
a
Kava
Kava.
and then
Ew.
go to sleep.
Yeah, go to bed, and then it won't bother you.
I don't want to like smack it with my hat and it'll be in the Kava.
Daddy just sits on the edge and he's trying to tell us something the entire time. He's like, I have so much to open up about, guys.
On the show.
I've been waiting for this moment.
I am really happy though that I've learned now how to drink it properly, because up until I think last week or 2 weeks ago, I thought, and I was told, you're supposed to drink the first one really fast and then every other one you can sip on. But it was exactly what you said, and I would have like
Sediment.
Just be like this the entire time.
Yeah.
Like a bad matcha.
Yeah.
A lot.
Just a lot of, it's like thick at the bottom.
Yeah, like a bad mocha. But yeah, you said you were from, was it Philadelphia?
Pennsylvania. So I grew up not far from Philadelphia, but I also grew up in the central part of the state. So, I grew up in Chester County, which I'm from a town called Oxford. It was like everywhere
funny.
around there is
There's
named
always an
after
Oxford.
the UK. And one town over was Nottingham, Avondale, Westgrove, yeah. And it was funny because when I went to the UK, I was like, it actually looks like where I'm from, kind of, in Pennsylvania. But then my parents moved into central part of Pennsylvania where it's kind of like the Appalachian Mountains. Yeah, so where that part of Pennsylvania is where like my dad's side of the family comes from. Like, I don't even know how far back. Like, we looked on Ancestry.com and it just goes back. And it's a lot of like old coal mining towns, like run down places.
Oh,
and I kind of miss it like that. That's why I like Tonga. You know, it's like Appalachia. It's just a flat island. But yeah.
Is Appalachia like the Appalachian Trail? Is that?
Yeah.
Am I thinking of the same place? Oh, cool.
Well, the Appalachian Trail goes from Maine to Georgia.
Oh,
But it's like the Appalachian Mountain chain goes through there. So that part of America where people are often poking fun of, like West Virginia, like hillbillies. Yeah. It's like that.
Nice.
That area. Yeah.
What do they say? The Appalachia?
Some people say that.
The Appalachia. They say it like that. So it's the southern.
Oh yeah, they would say it that way.
Appalachia.
Yeah. I'm from the north though.
Oh. I couldn't tell. I do really good Southern American accent.
Anytime I think about mines, I never ever think about them being outside of where I'm from, because I'm from Northern England, and we obviously have mines. We have a whole history of mines. I'm sure you've seen Billy Elliot, and if you haven't, then you should.
I haven't, but
What? Neither of you have
Nope.
seen Billy Elliot. You don't like musicals, but
don't.
wait,
Yeah,
is Billy Elliot even a musical? It's a dancing film. It's about a little boy who dances. I can't remember.
yeah,
It's good though. There's like a really funny. There's some really like. I mean, it's like a film that like I don't know if it would like fly today, but it's still on stage now. There's like, oh, you have to watch. There's like a little scene where this like boy is really sad, and this like little girl next goes, "Do you want to see my fanny?" To like try and like cheer him up.
Okay.
I've heard of that, but if somebody was like, "What's this about?" I would have no idea.
So it's like a little boy who wants to become a ballet dancer, but his family are all dealing with the mines and the mines being shut down at that time. So it's all about the time when like Margaret Thatcher and all of this was going on. We have a lot of stuff. I'm sure I've told you about like the mining history from where I'm from, because I will have done when we see a gingerbread man, because I would like compulsively tell everyone the gingerbread man are from my hometown.
Oh,
Fun fact,
Cute.
they were made by the gingerbread ladies to give to the men as they went down the mines.
damn.
Yeah.
So are all those towns out there like run down, dilapidated, or not so much? They found
No.
other industries, or
The other industries have come up anyway. Like it's been, but there are definitely areas that have been more. You can tell they're more industrial. You go past them on the train. I'm from like a little village, which is just all farming land anyway.
Yeah.
So it's mostly like turf farming and things like that, it's quite a cute little place. But
I haven't been to the north of England. Someday.
I love it there. It depends. But if someone's gonna go on holiday there, I wouldn't send them to like where I'm from at all. I just love it because
Yeah,
it's
have fun.
mine. Yeah, it's like the gym that I work out. People are like, isn't that like a really tiny gym that's like shit? And I'm like, yeah, but it's my shithole, so I have an
Yeah,
attachment.
but Kiwis
to it.
only go to London.
Yeah,
Like,
and everyone assumes you're from London if
it's
you're from
the-
England.
It's the weirdest thing. Everybody's like, I'm going to London. I'm like,
Why?
You guys like? I mean, London's it's cool, but don't you want to see some other?
I also feel like and maybe I'm completely wrong because maybe they like big cities, but coming from New Zealand, where like Auckland is the biggest city,
Yeah,
that's huge. You go to London, it's
that's why. I think that's
Yeah,
why the
maybe.
Kiwis like it. But
Maybe there are definitely places to see.
Stones.
yeah,
Go to like Toronto or something.
Oh, you're gonna say like somewhere in England? Yeah, I was gonna say, don't think go to Liverpool or Manchester. I think go to.
Manchester.
Who were we talking to recently? They're like, oh, I went to Birmingham recently, and I was like,
That was
oh,
me.
Oh, it was you. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry.
I mean, I was there with like good friends, and we went skateboarding. I didn't know anything
Yeah,
about
that's
any.
right.
I was like, oh, if I went there by myself, I'd probably like, But
Yeah.
it's who you're with, you know.
There are so many cool places if you like history in England to go
Yeah.
to that are definitely more my cup of tea, like York and Bath. If you like Roman stuff, is really fun.
I just like I really hate touristy things.
Same.
Like I really just don't like if I go traveling and stuff, I don't like doing like I don't know what's the Wikipedia what travel websites where you find like the top 10.
TripAdvisor.
That's the one. I was thinking with Wikipedia.
It's the Wikipedia of traveling.
It is, yeah.
where you find like the top 10 touristy things and you go see those. Like that is hell on earth.
People just
You can
want to
use
tick
them to
boxes.
you can use them to write off places though. Although I do use TripAdvisor for finding the good museums. Not necessarily the top ones, but you'll be able to read some reviews in there and see who's been to what museums. And if you're like me, you can hit a couple museums in a day if you start early.
When you have limited time, it does have its application. But yeah, there's a lot of people that just go and like take a selfie in a place. It's like, look, I was here, or whatever.
Well, like when
Very
I like going with people from the area, and then you can see like the spots that the locals are like, this is actually better than that. You come here and there's no one there. Like when I was in Italy, so like the big ticket items of the Colosseum, the Trevi Fountain, etc. Horrible, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Beautiful.
The Trevi Fountain was beautiful, but it was just absolutely just hell to go to try and get a photo there, and it was just you're not experiencing it in the same way.
You're not experiencing it. You're experiencing tourism.
I did love the Colosseum though. I feel like no amount of tourism could take away from how like grandiose it is because you're just tiny in there.
I'm not shitting on Roman history. Just to be clear.
Liv hates the Colosseum. Liv hates Rome.
I love it, all of it.
But I would love to go with you, for example, who's been there, lived in Italy, and speaks Italian. 'Cause it's just gonna open things up so much more.
It does.
Yeah.
Because it's really. I took my mom and my sister went, and when you speak Italian, when I was there with my ex or whatever, when you're with someone who speaks Italian and you're with someone that speaks the language, the locals treat you so different.
Oh yeah, that's
The hospitality just like opens up. But
Oh yeah, if you go, I mean, I'm English, so when I go to France, I just get kicked as soon as I land. But no, I think that
To be fair,
language just opens you up anyway, like just yourself anyway. Learning a language is just the most beautiful thing. I
to
mean,
connect you to the culture and like the
Yeah.
community, absolutely.
I was saying this, I think I said this last time when we met up, was the fact that like Toreo Maori, like there are words there, it would take a whole paragraph to explain what they mean. But they have so much power to them. Like mana, for example, like there's no one word that can tell you what that is in English. It's its own meaning entirely.
That's the thing, and to explain it, it's a concept that and this is how things get lost in translation, right? Yeah, most of the Tongan language that I've learned has been around the Kava bowl. It's you just hear it a lot, and then you start connecting the meanings to words, and yeah. It's funny, I mentioned skateboarding before, but and that goes hand in hand with travel. But there's been two things in my life that have opened doors for me that like it's been really magical: skateboarding and kava. Like,
I love those as a combo.
Yeah.
You would never, if someone was
Yeah.
like, "What are the two relations between these two things?" I wouldn't have thought Todd.
well, they both exist in bowls.
Oh, this is true.
But
Have you ever thought about shrinking yourself down really small
Yeah.
in this thing?
when the bowl's empty, I get one of those like fingerboards. And no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I would love that.
You have done that though.
No, I actually haven't. Not in a kava
I'm bringing
bowl.
you a tiny little skateboard next time.
But a few weeks ago, I was in Azerbaijan. I went over there for that COP29 conference because some climate change research is also something that I do.
Oh, interesting. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, actually?
Yeah, I can. But to finish why I started talking about that, I met up with some local skateboarders, and they took me to this like crazy skate park in an abandoned like theater. The place was crazy.
Oh, yeah. Actually,
then-
you did show us this. We should, we'll try and remember Hunter we'll insert an image of this because it's actually so sick.
And then I introduced them to kava after we skated together in Azerbaijan.
Lovely.
They loved it.
Oh, that's awesome.
You got enough?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, the climate change research. I did my master's degree at Waikato University looking at visual media representations of communities in parts of Tuvalu, which is pretty much everywhere, that are affected by climate change. And I talked to your average people that live there, not government people, none of that. They just live there, farming, fishing. And what do you think of these narratives, these visual narratives that are common in the media, showing people standing in water up to their knees, looking like helpless? And that was not a popular narrative for local people, but I think sometimes the governments like it because they can leverage that.
Of course.
But it's a tough one because Tuvalu is really, really affected by the effects of climate change. It's low-lying, it's isolated. The main island is 12 kilometers long and only 400 meters wide at the widest point.
Wow.
Very exposed, but the people are very dignified, and that's their home, and they don't want. They're not just there with like bags packed, but nowhere to go.
Yeah, they want to show the pride that they have in the
Yeah.
place. Yeah, I can imagine.
And as a photographer and documentarian, I always feel like I want to tell the truth, and I just felt like the narratives that I saw wasn't representing the people, their experience and their, I guess basically their abilities to adapt and continue dealing with all these things. And then I did that kind of the year before COVID happened, and then I went and I was working in Tonga, and then the borders closed because of COVID. But when the borders closed, my son and I were in Tonga, but my wife and daughter were here. So I had to come back, and then I applied for a scholarship to do a PhD at AUT. So I've got about like 6 or 7 months to finish that.
Oh, amazing! Then you're Dr. Todd from here
then
forth.
people will come to be served kava by no.
Skateboard.
yeah, that's it.
That's the coolest thing ever.
I actually only let my doctors be skateboarders.
Yeah.
But actually that COVID time and coming back here is part of the reason why Four Shells is here at all. We had started it as like a side project, and we had some other people involved in the beginning, and it was kind of things got a little bit crazy, and then throw COVID in there, and I wasn't even in New Zealand, and it looked like this place was maybe, I don't know what was going to happen to it. But when I came back, I was like, well, I don't have a job now anyway, and the other partners wanted to go, so I was like, okay, and I'll take it over. And because nobody was traveling out of or into New Zealand, we just had this like group of people that were obviously anxious about what was happening in the world. There's this new place that has kava that helps you feel relaxed. So the group of regular customers that are still like, man, they've become like family to us, like really good friends now. They formed at that time here.
I was going to say that when I found this was during the lockdowns. It was when you were on like level 2 or 3, whichever it was, where you could stop takeaway. That's how I found this place.
Yeah.
So again, it's also the reason why I didn't get to do it in the more communal way.
Yeah. At that time, people would, they'd get the kava takeaway, but then all the people who became friends, they'd jump on like Zoom and drink kava and like Zoom calls from their garage or lounge. Like if we went next door
Probably
now,
wouldn't have been allowed to do that from my bath.
No.
Well, if we went next door now, there's probably 5 or 6 people who are like regulars over there, and
that's lovely. That's like really the community that's been built around it.
Yeah, it's a really special thing.
Like.
We did something similar in COVID.
Not we, me and you.
No, not me and you. We met 5 months ago, so not us. I used to work in a brewery before COVID happened. Then went to Canada. Then New Zealand was open, so came back here. But we would do Zoom calls and build that community, but around beer.
Oh.
Very different, but it's the way I think during COVID, everybody just wanted to connect to someone. It was having that relationship, that engagement, that level. It was we did it around what we knew, and then that's what you created for people, is to do that, to create that community, but around something more meaningful.
Over kava.
Yeah, for sure. It's not that different though. It's just a nice. It's just connection.
Yeah.
It's connection. It's a nice thing. Yeah.
Our Zoom calls just got a little bit more hectic.
Oh yeah, probably. Yeah.
The
A
thing
little bit
about
more silly.
when it comes to drinking alcohol, I feel like on a Zoom call, it just ends there. But people, they catch up in person for a couple of quiet ones, and before you know it, it's like 3 a.m. and you're at like the viaduct, and you're like, oh, I got work in 4 hours. And that
say that little eye. She's like, it's never.
That does not happen with kava.
No.
But
no, and that's what I was saying about the other day. Like, I think Nelson and I came here on a Friday and had kava 5 hours. We were here. I think we stayed until like 11 or 10 or 11, and that was it. And then I went home, felt great the next morning. Went for a run. Just had a really good night. Didn't have a hangover. It was lovely.
Love that.
Absolutely lovely.
Yeah, I've never had any adverse effects from kava. It's just a nice, relaxing to the time, and I really do enjoy like the mouth numbingness of it. But I also just love any sort of earthy taste. We haven't done a taste review at all, but I guess we're just gonna say it tastes.
yeah,
It does taste like a root. Like, it's like an earthy, rooty taste. I'm trying to think what else it could be similar to.
So if you ever
Maybe
get the
taro, but not like without any sweetness. Like in terms of texture, it's got that.
starchy.
Yeah.
That
Especially like if you drink it the way I used to drink it.
wrong.
It gets thick.
Oh, you didn't strain it.
She was like, when you get to the bottom, it's like paste.
It's like a paste.
Yeah,
You can eat it with a spoon.
But the review is mainly on how it feels.
I do. It's the tingle in your tongue that.
People ask all the time, because we have all different varieties, cultivars of kava. There's over 100 different cultivars. Now they're all kava, but they're all mutations off of the wild ancestor of kava. And the different cultivars produce somewhat different effects. Some are more deeply relaxing, some are more like uplifting, but not in an energetic kind of way. It's kind of hard to explain.
So you have you offer quite a few different types, don't you? Which one are we having today?
This one is called Beer Car. This one is quite uplifting. It's a good one for conversation, I think.
Similar to kind of like, not similar to, but in terms of how people think about weed and having like a sativa versus like an indica in terms of like one's more of a lift and one's more of like a sleepy time, or
I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's people ask me that all the time too, and I'm just all I do is drink coffee.
okay, other people have had the same thought then.
But I think there is a comparison there, but I can't elaborate on that.
Probably it's a good analogy for people who are trying it for the first time, maybe.
Maybe.
Like different strains, but
Well, we call them cultivars because they are.
you just taught us that.
That's all right. The reason why though is cultivar, that denotes that it's been cultivated purposefully by humans. So
Okay.
the noble varieties of kava cultivars that we drink do not propagate naturally. Like they won't just blow in the wind to like another island
Yeah,
or whatever.
you have
They've
to
been
create
taken
this.
and purposefully planted.
This is a pedigree.
Yeah, that's it. These are ones that have been selected and perpetuated over time, and really over 3,000 years. It's not dissimilar from the way like humans took a wolf and turned it into like a chihuahua over time, to serve a particular purpose. So people always ask, "Oh, the different cultivars they'll often call them different flavors," and I'm like, no flavors. Like kava should be mixed with just water. The bitter taste is part of kava, but they do have a little bit different bitterness. People often say about the taste of kava, and I like to use the analogy. Kava is bitter, but like tattoos also hurt, but people still get them, right? It's part of it.
It's the experience, yeah, and that's again my journey into this is new. But I wouldn't say that I would drink this for the taste.
No.
But I drink it for this, for conversation, for the experience, honestly.
I quite like the taste, I think. But maybe it is because I have that connection to what it does and how it feels. So I think that may be part of it.
There are some other, not necessarily varieties, but other brands or suppliers of kava. Their kava will taste different because of how it's processed. Some people, they don't peel the bark off of the roots, or they're chucking in the stems as well. So if you've ever had kava that's very, very dark in color, it's because the roots haven't been peeled, and
So
it's
similar
like
to
way
like
more
the
bitter.
like grapes having the skins in for wine, like that's sort of like heavy on like the tannins. It has that darker color to it because you're
Probably.
keeping
It's,
that in.
You said before that I think you said before. So if I'm wrong, I'm just making it up. That people drink fresh green kava.
Yeah,
Yep.
I was gonna ask about that.
Yeah, I started talking about that. If you ever get a chance to go to Vanuatu, they still drink fresh green kava, like as the rule. Fresh green kava, if you drank like 2 shells that size, that's all you need. It's very, very potent. But it's more of like you go to the kava bars, I call them nakamal. It's a...
Nakamal.
Yeah, nakamal is like an informal place to have kava, because in all the other parts of Vanuatu, outside of the cities, they'll have very particular like cultural ways of having kava that they do it there only. But when people come to the capital, Port Vila, or some of the other bigger towns, they'll go to the nakamal and they're drinking kava, but all of the protocol is kind of stripped away from it. But yeah, they start early, like 5, 6 p.m., have a few shells, and people go home. Basically, the nakamal's closed when the kava runs out, too. Because to get the fresh green kava and prepare it, it's a lot of work to dig up the kava plants and clean them and squeeze them. Yeah.
I love that it's stronger and it's like ready, because it's like such a difference between like fermenting something versus like having something fresh. I guess it's kind of similar with like mushrooms. Like if you're picking them, like if you have them fresh, you don't need nearly as much to get the same effects.
Yeah, I like that it's a natural thing.
Yeah.
Just pull it out of the ground, and you don't have to ferment it or...
No, it's just
anything.
good to go.
Yeah.
That's it.
I do love like humans, though. We will find anything to get ourselves on an elevated plane. We'll be like, you know what these potatoes could do with? Fucking me up.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
It's true, though. We're just like, you know what else we could do with these grapes? Get
Break
fucked
them.
up.
Let them ferment. There's a lot of stuff that people do try with kava.
Sorry, potatoes, because
Vodka. Yeah, you got it now. There we go.
I'm like acid potatoes.
That was actually not that bad though.
Well,
Acid potatoes. You just come up with a new idea, but I feel like the amount of potato you'd need would be very, 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 very minimal versus the amount. Thank you.
Super Moorish.
They are.
I'm good for now.
Moorish for me.
I've learned the hard way that you don't make anything. Don't make things that are edible into something that will get you up high, because if you're a hungry person like me, it's just a bad idea.
So this stuff, like making, I hear a lot of talk around like, in terms of weed, I guess people are like, I got, what is it, CBD gummies and all that. So I'm like, when you take something that in its natural state is just a plant that you, I don't know, you do whatever and you can consume it in some way, that to me is like, that's authentic. It's a plant, it's been used, and it's got a long history. Do
you mean CBD gummies? Do you mean what THC gummies? Because CBD would be for just the calming effects more than a THC is obviously for the high.
I mean, it might be either one, THC, CBD, whatever. I guess the point is when you take something and turn it into like gummies, to me it cheapens it.
Yeah.
I mean, similar, there's a bunch of different kava products, and I think, I don't know, anything that deviates away from what this is kind of makes it, I don't know.
I agree with you. Like, I do. And especially on that note of the gummies. I think as well, it's having something in its natural form, in its natural state, I feel like you've got naturally a lot more respect to it.
Yeah.
If you've taken, you've taken too many gummies, though, you learn to respect them. Because I have poor decisions of my life have been told like, oh, have this pack of gummies, and after an hour, if you don't feel anything, have the other pack. The poor decision that I made was an hour and 15, and I gone, not feeling anything, eating the second pack, and then 5 minutes later, feeling the first pack, and then knowing that I was down a path that was not going to be coming back, and doing slam poetry to myself an hour after that.
So kind of similar experience. So I've done basically the exact same thing, but I do feel like that's on theme. And for us to have the exact same experience, I think it's because you take something from its natural state and you put it into a form of a gummy bear or something that you're familiar with.
And also, you can't tell how much is in there once you're at that point,
No.
And it's too easy to eat way too many.
You can't, but I think if you had it in the form of the, I don't know, what is it?
Just the flower.
The flower, the stems, and the little bush thing.
Well, you just eat you just
smoke it or
Yeah.
whatever. I say that whatever as if I've never seen
I know,
that.
as I say,
You grind it up a little, I know exactly what
she's
happens.
like, whatever it is that those potheads do.
Whatever the potheads do. You're taking it. I completely agree with you, because I do think you lose that.
It's also nice to taste the
that
flower.
fear as well from it. Like
you do
it's
lose
a
respect.
drug, or it's a substance rather than it's a gummy worm, and I'll have 3 of them, and then I'm going to be in a coma.
Oh yeah, the amount. Yeah, and I think every single person that's ever done an edible that's been in a cute little sweet type form, like a cookie or anything else, has done exactly the opposite of what the person who's given it to them has told them to do, which is half, and then they've gone exactly every single person has done the same thing, and they've gone, fuck it, and then eaten the whole thing. And I hear it all the time.
I did the cookie with my family, because again, pot legal in Canada, so it was like family. I was maybe like 29, maybe 19 or 18 years old, young, and my friend gave me a quarter of a cookie, then another quarter, and then a half. I was within an hour. I was in bed, I think at 7 p.m.
Aww.
With all my family there, my family, friends, everybody coming in and laughing at me.
Oh no!
Absolutely laughing in my face.
That's so mean.
It was really mean.
It's so
It was
mean.
really mean, but I look back.
Yeah, it's funny afterwards, but at the time it's so hot. Yeah, everyone thinks they're dying.
I guess that's the thing when whatever you're doing is delivered in the form of something like a cookie or a gummy or
familiar
whatever.
and unthreatening.
But it turned into a joke thing later. But if you sat down with some like old Rasta men and smoked from like a pipe that one dude has had for 50 years and from a plant that they just got from there, do you think like you'd be, I don't know, it would turn into people laughing at you afterwards or something?
No,
Probably not.
absolutely not. You're gonna
Likewise
have
with kava, like if it's
Yeah.
done in a traditional way, it's like there's something about maintaining that authentic approach that
And the respect for it.
it makes it respectful.
No,
And
I
also you pace
completely
yourself
agree
with all of that more. You can pace yourself with smoking the flower, and you can pace yourself with having a cup of kava, and you can take your time with it
and enjoy
the experience. Yeah, rather than doing too much, and that's most people do too much of everything, and that's when you end up with a
That's like the Western culture, though. It's
binging, just binging.
It's the artificial. It's the how can we get this into a form that's easily
Packageable.
Packageable, easily deliverable, more appealing.
Also, like the kava pills, like I told you, like I'd bought those before because I thought that it would be like same thing. So I was like, this will be nice. This will be good and calming for me. So yeah, I've bought those because they were easily packaged and I could purchase them in a shop. But it's not the real experience. I don't think it's digested in the same way, so obviously you're not having this experience. So yeah.
It's not this experience.
No, but they're also the contents of those pills is not just kava powder that's put in a capsule.
It's emulsifiers.
It's like a extract. So they have different methods, either like using organic solvents, ethanol and so forth, or CO2 method of extraction. And when they do that, they're extracting like a lot of one or two of the compounds. Whereas in kava, in traditional form, there are a number of different compounds that all work in synergy with one another. So when you're extracting just one and taking it at high doses, there's obviously no synergistic effect. But also I don't know, what are the long-term health effects of?
I mean, even on those ones, it said not to take them for longer than like 6 weeks and things like that.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think a lot of times they put that on there because they simply don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know what the
They're just saying,
effects are.
just stop at 6 weeks. We've not
And
done the research.
the other thing about products like that, and this happened back in the 90s, early 2000s, pharmaceutical companies were making things out of kava extracts and pills and stuff. And some people, it was getting pretty popular in Europe and in the United States. And some people got sick in Germany, and the German government decided it was due to kava. They attributed it to liver damage. Still, people ask about this. They'll Google kava.
Yeah, that was because I was going to question that as well, because
Yeah.
it is something that like keeps flagging up on things. It's like the liver damage claim. So is this? Yeah, tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, so the German government banned it. So like a lot of other countries, it was like a knee-jerk reaction. Also banned it. And New Zealand never did because they looked at any Friday and Saturday night. There's like 30,000 people drinking kava here, almost all Pacific Islanders at that time. And how were they drinking it? Just in traditional form. And we don't see those issues here.
No spike in liver damage.
And so it turned out that a lot of the research in Germany they did around the health effects of it was based, well, actually all of it was based off of the extract. But a lot of it was done improperly as well. Like they didn't properly assess the existing liver health of the people that said that they had these issues. And there were some other things that made the general consensus today is all that research has been debunked.
This is the problem with the research, though, is I love a study, and everyone around me knows I love a study. It's like the way to get me hot and heavy is saying I've got a peer-reviewed study for you. Love that. But always look into it, because I remember this is just like a random example, but when I was pregnant, I kept hearing from people over and over and over again, oh, you're going to go over, because it's your first one, you're going to go over due. And I was like, I wonder what this study is on this, because I want to look into it. The study that was done that tells women, that everyone swears by, was only like 45 women that they'd actually studied. And then I found a much more comprehensive study that showed that the 4 days before and the 4 days after, there's over like 1,200 women or something, that it's like a little spike. So around those 4 days before, 4 days after, you're just as likely percentage-wise to give birth 4 days before your due date and 4 days after, and then most likely around your due date, like this little pyramid up. But I just found that to be like shocking. I obviously looked into this because I was being petty, and it was to tell my mum she had to fly here earlier. And I did give birth 6 days early. So.
Yeah, and these kind of things, they become perpetuated. Everybody says that's what's going to happen. And Yeah, the German thing it did tarnish the name of kava. We still see the effects of that today.
Yeah, this came up on my quick Google search as
yeah.
well, like the other day.
But if you dig a bit deeper, there needs to be a distinction between like kava in traditional form and products that contain parts of kava, or Piper Methysticum, if you want to call it that, because like people in the Pacific would not have formed entire cultures that are underpinned by a drink that kills you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like
Well, that's us Western culture.
we do that. Yeah, that's a little bit different.
We do. We've got that claim.
The food industry is already doing its job there.
Yeah, that's... So, I mean, if you drank the wild ancestor of kava, it would make you sick, but like you'd throw up from it.
Yeah, but they're not. It's not a drink that's gonna it's like, yeah, we know this is harmful and we're drinking it anyway.
No, that's exactly right.
Which is essentially everything that we drink with alcohol. It's
Well,
like,
that's what I mean,
like
that's
this,
alcohol.
yeah, it is 100%. So we know this is making you sick, but we're gonna do it anyways. We're not against alcohol, but we have to put it out there. I'm a big wine fan, but again, in moderation.
But I think in my perspective, like I'd never heard of any of like the I don't know, the
Health misconceptions.
Yeah, thank you. The health misconceptions around kava. I just actually never heard of it, and I think that's just being from Canada. I don't know if it's a big thing there. I don't
Kava.
Yeah, I don't think so.
It's Canada. There's a lot of countries like this. They have what we call I call it a half-ass ban. You can bring it in for your own personal use. Like you could fly back there tomorrow with like 3 kilos in your bag. Just declare it as food or whatever, but you wouldn't be allowed to sell it.
Okay.
So even Australia used to be like this until pretty recently.
Maybe I should
Yeah.
bring some back.
Yeah. I was just saying.
Or like bring it and
Yeah.
my friends.
Yeah, interesting. You should. It would be nice for us to do one of our recordings via Zoom anyway, and it'd be nice if we were here and then you were over there.
Yeah.
And we're zooming.
Yeah.
We're zooming. Oh, I'm just thinking that because again, it's not something that I had ever heard of before. I think Nelson, he was the one who introduced me to it. He actually brought me here.
Yeah.
That's where I learned about it.
He comes quite a bit.
Yeah, he does. He mentioned. I think he saw you on Friday.
Mhm.
Yeah. He's here a lot. I think we're also coming back on Friday.
Yeah.
But he introduced me to it, and I'd never known about it enough to form misconceptions. It was just my first experience was my experience with it, and the benefit of coming somewhere like here is you've got that community formed around it. You like say someone who like Nelson, who he enjoys that, and it's done in a very nice, tranquil way. My experience has always been positive with it, and if someone were to tell me like, oh no, it's a drug or it's this, immediately, because I've experienced it, I'd be like, oh no, it's not, and I'm not an expert on it, but from living that experience, I'd be able to.
I feel like I have to look into everything. But my experience has always been good. It was only from Google the other day, and I was like, oh, this is something I'm going to have to ask about. And I know that it said this on the back of the kava pills that I had, which is why I wanted to ask about it. I'm glad I did, because it's nice that we have that. Because a lot of people are probably going to Google it when they, see and hear about this. And I'm glad that right off the bat, that's been covered in this conversation as well. Because I would have had to say after that, I don't want to promote something that is causing any sort of damage, either. And yeah, I'm glad that we covered it. And
there's a consensus that just because something has kava in it does not make it kava. Because
oh yeah, you were talking
kava,
about the Kraken.
Well, there's that.
The evil
that side
villain
of it
name
too.
thing. I got the Kraken.
I guess the point I guess is like kava as a drink is only half of what kava is. The other half is like what takes place around it. But we don't call caffeine pills coffee. It's like
byproducts.
Yeah, and then the association of kava with other things like this kratom thing. I mean, I've only ever been to one kava bar in the United States, like 10 years ago, and I wasn't even aware of like the kratom stuff. I mean, I don't even know. Maybe it wasn't even around back then. But
can you explain what the kratom stuff is in a second?
Well, to the best of my ability, I've never had it, but it's it kind of mimics like an opiate, and some people get addicted to it, especially when there's varieties of it that have been I guess, concentrated or have a part of the process in making it that makes it like super strong. I guess the comparison is like leaf kratom, which is used traditionally in Indonesia and Thailand, is like coca leaves. But when you cook it down and do whatever they do in the process, and then it becomes like cocaine. It becomes way stronger. And I guess the problem is the association that a lot of people in the United States have. It's like kava and kratom get used in the same sentence all the time.
Intermittently.
And if you're, I don't know, if you're from wherever in the States, you're just like these two things that begin with K that are both from places far away. Yeah. Oh, let's, and it falls into this like natural. It's natural, like.
By the way, so is cocaine.
Yeah, just because something is natural doesn't.
Just because it's natural doesn't mean it's okay for you either. It's everything is going to be looked at with a little bit of a ooh.
No, I'm also not an anti-kratom advocate or whatever. I think maybe it has an application because I've also read people say, because in the States we have a big problem with opiate addiction. People are addicted to prescription pills or straight up heroin or whatever. And a lot of the discussions I see online, people are defending kratom and saying, "Oh, this saved my life or saved my friend's life." And okay, that's fine, but it's still not kava.
It's more the association that's the issue.
We're not talking about the same thing. Yeah. It's still not kava.
It's the association that's the problem. They should be more separated than bundled into the same thing to give it this like it's completely like harmless, which is, you know, once something becomes like, if it's like on a medical level addictive, I feel like anything can be addictive, but like, you know, if something's on a medical level addictive, then that's where problems going to rise if you're not making that quite clear. But it's good to hear that it's had positive effects anyway. I mean, I'm pro, you should have full free will to put what you want in your body, as long as you're not encroaching on other people, harming other people.
But you also have to be informed about 100% what it is. And but then again, if people are taking it to get off of different addictions and so forth, like shouldn't it be like a doctor saying, "Here's how much you need, and this will help you get off"? Not like.
Well, that's also a really big argument. I mean, this is we could go into a whole thing about this. For like the legalization of things and studies being available, and if that was the case of someone wanted to get off of, I don't know, heroin, a doctor would prescribe them like, you know, a different and work it through, but that's not available because drugs are illegal and we don't talk about them.
Well, this is like the problem with like the war on drugs sort of thing. But as soon as you have a war on something, you're completely actively you're fueling it. Like you're just creating this separation and taking away from. It's like when parents are like abstinence, like you can't have sex, you're never gonna have sex. What do you think those kids are gonna do? They're gonna go and hide it, and then if something comes up that harms them or hurts them or a health condition, it means that they can't go to you because they don't feel safe. And it's the same with drugs. Like we should have people we can go to and be like, "Hey, I got hooked on meth. Can you help me?" Like that should be like an open conversation. It shouldn't be a possible prison sentence.
That's right. Yeah. I think. Yeah, I mean, New Zealand is. There's a lot of problems here, but I'm thankful that we don't have like widespread opiate addiction, and then they have these things where they test like free testing.
I love that. We've talked about this before. I think that's like the coolest thing ever about when you go to festivals. They just have free testing and stuff. And when I first came here, I was like, are they trying to catch us? Are they being mean? If I go in there, are they going to arrest me? And they're like, no, it's fine. Just go in there. And then they have like tents for like recovery and stuff. And I was like, oh, this place is pretty nice.
What's the realization? And that's where I think like the human side of things comes in. It's people are going to do this tonight regardless.
That's it. That's the thing.
Do we want them to do
it safely?
Something really bad that's laced with something bad and then they die and we have to deal with that? Or we test it, we accept that they're doing it, and we make sure that they're safe.
Yeah, especially like fentanyl and things like that sort of problems going on. Like it's just really crazy that people are just cutting anything and things. Like, check your drugs, kids. That's our number one advice.
I always try to look at it in the context of the United States is a very different context than here in New Zealand. Because it's very easy for me to say, oh, everybody should just drink kava. Like I consider myself sober. I drink kava most days, but I don't use it as like an escape or whatever. But yeah, in the States, there's a lot of heroin and opiate addiction, and people, it's more extreme over there. People like want the next level. And But yeah, I just think kava should stand alone. It's its own thing. It's not. You don't pair it with anything else. It's not a legal high. And if you're using kava to get high or to escape, or you're becoming dependent on it, then that's misuse of kava. And because kava is underpinned by respect, if you are using kava in a disrespectful way or in a way that doesn't uphold that, then you should step away from it, right?
Yeah.
Like if I found myself every night coming in here and be like, oh, I gotta get some kava, like I'd be like, I'm gonna take some time off.
Yeah.
But when I'm working here, I drink kava, but I'm not like nailing it.
I think that's a really good approach. Just a kind of a similar approach that I have to fitness in a funny way. And same with like for my clients of fitness. I've had clients over the years who've got, have had different issues over the years, like eating disorders or body dysmorphia, which that can lead to a similar sort of thing of going, I have to go to the gym no matter what, I have to do this, or and there's always a I am, and then it becomes they take themselves and make them into somehow a failure and less of a person if they're not doing it, or they have to do it to get out of their head, or again, it's abuse of it. And at that point, it's like, I think we're better, instead of you telling me that if we don't do this today, you're going to like lose everything, then maybe we should just go for a walk and just chat about what it is that's going on there.
People are extreme. I use the fitness thing as an analogy when people ask if kava is addictive, and I say it's addictive maybe like psychologically, like working out could be for some people. But some people, I didn't go to the gym today. It's all over. I'm out of shape now.
Oh, I've been that person. I've had those thoughts when I first started out training, before going through like my own through therapy actually helped me get over that sort of mindset around it. And now it's I'm doing this because I love myself and I want to live a nice long life.
Yeah.
And because I want to feel like amazing, but not I have to do this, or I'm going to change in a day somehow into this negative thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's when you see I see that a lot, unfortunately, and it's trying to get people away from that mindset of chasing like I won't be happy until, or I won't be happy. Yeah, that when I'm like, what if I told you could be happy right now and be like peaceful right now? And people are like, no. And I'm like, you're just fighting against yourself.
Yeah, people are very particular. I think I used to be like that. But you just look at, we have no choice but to always try to make progress, always try to improve yourself, but you also have to find some kind of happiness now.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, make changes to your situation if you need to, but that doesn't mean you can't be happy now, or else you're just creating suffering for yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I wrote. I actually wrote this down on my phone the other day because I put so much meaning into things. But that's what I found, and people could have different opinions. But I find happiness it's not something really to strive for. Like, yeah, be happy. I want to be happy eventually, but it's a feeling, and it passes you by on a daily basis, and you have to recognize that when you're in that moment. So that's how I view it personally, and that helped me.
I just think that's true. It's just, yeah.
I could be in the worst possible stressful situation and still experience happiness because I've witnessed, things that make me happy. An owner throwing a ball for a dog and he runs and gets it. I'm like, oh, that's beautiful. That's such a nice moment. I feel happy.
I think we've had funny moments when we've been like a really devastating day. We've been like, end up laughing our asses off just because you can do in stressful situations. You can still find like joy in anything.
And it's just finding that, for myself personally, it was being able to recognize that it's not a state of being. It's a feeling. You just have to enjoy the moments when you are happy and let it consume you. And then, in 10 minutes I might be crying again about something that's really making me sad, but it's the same thing.
I think that differentiation is really important though. Like, I like to say to myself, like, when I have that thought of I am, and then I put the feeling there and I'm like, no, that's not right. I'm not I am sad or I am happy. I'm not sad and I'm not happiness. Like, I'm experiencing sadness. I'm experiencing happiness right now. What is that reason? Why is that happening? It's like monitoring those thoughts, because it's so easy to, especially negative emotions, like we love to feed on that, like our brain loves to feed on like that sort of stuff and be like, oh, this is a shit day because the weather is bad. And it's like, no, the fact is the weather is bad. That's a fact. Facts are neither good nor bad, they just are. And
how can you not be happy when you smell the rain on the asphalt.
Oh, I love that smell.
Best smell in the world.
I love that
Finding beauty and all that stuff.
Well, yeah, it's also you got to think about it. When it rains, it's like, well, the plants need it. That's what I always say when it rains. I'm like, the plants needed it. It's not my time.
And it's a little bit of a cliche saying, but like humans are addicted to suffering. So true.
It's true.
I used to be like.
I'd say human egos are addicted to suffering. They feed on that.
It's true. I would always hyper focus on what I wasn't happy about, whatever negative things. I've managed to break that, but I used to be real bad with that stuff.
But yeah, we wanted to ask about the age restriction here, if there is one for kava.
So officially kava is regulated as food as long as it's mixed with only water and prepared in what we call the traditional cold water method, which is where you just take kava powder, put it in cold water, and you have to squeeze it out, like strain in the strainer bag. And there are no age restrictions as such because it is regulated as a food. But culturally, usually young boys like in Tonga, Fiji, they wouldn't start having kava till they're like 14, 15, 16 when they get like brought into that space.
Brought into the conversation.
Yeah, it's what were we gonna ask?
I was just gonna ask because you mentioned obviously earlier about I think it was more around like crime and things like that, and about like the age of young men they're having lower crime rates because of the exposure to kava. But now you're mentioning again like the age being 14, 15 for boys. Is there a disparity between young women and women drinking kava?
Yeah, so that can often be a divisive issue depending on who you're talking to. In Tonga, it's mostly men that drink kava, but there are some women, kalapus, which is like the Tongan word for club, kava club, which is, when people think of club, they think of party. So I don't know how good of a term that is. But it is, the women would get together and drink kava only with women, men only with men. Fiji, men and women mixed together. Vanuatu, it depends on where you are. In the Nakamals, it's men and women, but in the traditional village settings, it's sometimes only men, and women aren't allowed to drink kava. But yeah, actually, my wife and some other women have a women's kalapu that meets in this space. And
interesting.
Yeah, Kava Women International. And yeah, the age restrictions, that's an interesting one, because if somebody came into Four Shells and, I don't know, brought their 7-year-old and were like, oh, we're going to drink kava. First of all, I don't think the kid would want to drink it anyway, because it's bitter. It's bitter and it's not definitely not like a fizzy drink or something. What about you? You want some kava?
Yeah.
Okay. And but I would, in that case, I would advise probably isn't a good idea. Same thing for like if women come in here and they ask, oh, I'm pregnant, can I drink kava? I say, well, nobody's ever actually researched what the effects could be. I know some places in Vanuatu, women drink kava if they're pregnant, but just better to err on the side of caution and say
that'd be at your own discretion and be like, we don't know, so.
Yeah. So that's the way I handle that.
Is there any custom around who pours into the shells?
Yeah, again, it depends on where you are. Generally, like, the same person will serve whoever started serving can just keep serving.
Okay.
But in the Tongan context, they have a woman usually serves it, and they call her the toa. She's like the kava server. So they get paid to be there. The toa gets paid, and they just kind of keep the conversation going, crack some jokes. But it's not the rule. It's like I've never been at a mix where they couldn't get a toa and they go, obviously won't have kava. A man will just end up doing it.
It's just nice.
Yeah.
I personally love it when I have a woman around that's cracking jokes while I'm drinking something.
Yeah. And so, sometimes kava's criticized, like Tongan wives will say, I don't want my man off like talking to the toa and this. But like usually these mixes, there's like 40 dudes and one woman. The odds aren't in your man's favor. But yeah, some other criticisms from that kind of perspective are that kava keeps men away from the family because those Tongan kava sessions go for hours, like 12 hours all night long, right to the morning. And then the men come back and they'll sleep all day because they just stayed up all night. But I argue that we shouldn't really blame kava for that. It's the way they're drinking. It's the style of drinking it. A friend of mine pointed out, he knows a guy that goes away surfing on the weekends, and he leaves his family, but we don't blame the surfboard, right? I don't know. Maybe it's just a thing with men. Men here in New Zealand stay away from the family, but they say I'm working late in the office.
Yeah, I think you could put that on.
That's a systemic issue though, with with family life and
people going out for one beer and then they get home at 3 o'clock in the morning and their family's at home.
Even the octopus teacher guy, he was gone every single day with the bloody octopus.
True.
I think was it you that accidentally called it my octopus lover, and I was like, accurate, accurate
that
name.
wasn't an accident. It was his octopus lover.
It was his octopus lover. I loved that documentary, but when he was like, yeah, me and my kids, I was like, you're lucky your kid is into diving. When he got to the end, I was like, because a lot of other kids could have grown up and been like, you suck, Dad, you left us for the octopus.
The thing I think about that film
footage,
sometimes,
so stunning.
The thing that surprised me the most was the how short an octopus lifespan is.
Yeah.
I didn't know
And
that.
the fact that they die for their children, like it's the females anyway. It was heartbreaking. We just don't know enough about them. We don't know enough about the ocean, but wow.
It's also wild that we say it's devastating, it's heartbreaking. That's the life of the octopus. That's its purpose. It has its kids, and then
I'm feeling devastation around it.
But I am too.
I am feeling devastation around this octopus.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
It's animalistic, and it's what they do, and that's their purpose. It's how they live, and it's their instinct, because they obviously don't have. I mean, it's called my octopus teacher. As much as I would like to say my octopus lover, but they don't have teachers. They just are born and they do the same thing. Like every octopus will do the same thing.
I'd be interested to know, because they talked about the conscientiousness and the consciousness of the octopus and how elevated it is. I'd be so interested to know whether or not that generationally passes down, so they're not actually dying. It's more of a rebirth again for them, because there's so much passed through them, so much information going through them. I mean, it's incredible documentary.
That concept of instinct is interesting, because instincts are just like inherited memories.
Yeah.
Like we all have an instinctual fear of snakes.
You mentioned this
actually. I've said that before.
Yeah, but I was going through the forest the other day and I saw a stick that looked like one, and I flinched a little bit and I immediately thought of that.
Yeah.
I was like, we do have this little instinctual thing about them.
Yeah, I forgot we mentioned that before. Yeah, and it's that's quite a fascinating thing. Like, you can inherit memories from your ancestors. But now, I don't know. What's our society doing to us now?
Well, we're getting less connected to that, I think. I think places like Four Shells Kava, you're creating that, again, though, that community where we do start to think about these things. And again, having your kid, talking, just having your family involved in this, adds to that too. Oh, we also didn't introduce you. Do you want to say your name?
Lainey.
This is Lainey. We heard you earlier just say yes, and for anyone just listening, would just got this random yes out of nowhere and be like, she's been here the whole time. She's not here for a lot of our earlier discussions. Just here for our little technical difficulty break.
Yeah.
I also bribed her with squirms.
Which are gummies, as in sweets, not gummies. We were talking about earlier. Oh yeah, we'll do poorest decision that's led you to this point, basically, or your funniest moment within this place. But I'll ask that.
Funniest moment. What was the other one?
Or the poorest decision that you've made, but somehow has ended up with where you are now. It may have been a poor decision at the time, but it's.
It's to link in that there's no poor decisions in life. It's just choices that we learn from.
That's right. That one's very easy for me, especially where we're sitting now. When we first started Four Shells, we went in on it with it was my wife and I and two other people, and put some money into it. We didn't have a lot of money, and I immediately felt like that was a stupid decision. I had people telling me dude, this isn't gonna work. Nobody wants to drink kava. I believed in it, but when I had people that I respect telling me, dude, I don't know about this idea, I had a lot of sleepless nights. And then kind of the relationship with the other partners got a little bit weird, and then I was like, oh, I'm going to go work in Tonga, and I gave myself a lot of like grief. It's like, man, you wasted a bunch of money on this thing that like isn't going to work, and these relationship with the people, the partners, and I remember that time was really, really difficult. Like I don't know, I was in a weird place, but the weirdest set of circumstances between like COVID happening and all this different stuff have led to what this is today, which is a very important space for so many people who come and drink kava, learn about kava, and like so many people with like who are like really close friends have formed in this space. So I remember at that time really, really wishing that I could just undo it and like back out of it. I was trying to get out of it, and even when I went to Tonga, I had just accepted like, well, this place is done. But if COVID did not happen exactly when it happened and how it happened, I would have just stayed in Tonga. So that's the craziest thing. So yeah, bad decisions, everybody makes them, but things can work out in a way that you can't even imagine. Because I remember just feeling depressed and like a really regretful about the whole thing, and my mind could not perceive any way that something good would come out of it.
And here you are now.
And here we are.
Yeah.
This has been crazy.
That's like the whole, I think when we told people the name of our podcast, they first thought like this was going to be around drunk and bad decisions, where I'm sure we're going to talk about them over time, where things that have happened anyway, but that isn't what we mean by this. I'm a strong believer, and you are too, that like every decision you make, like good or bad, it lands you to where you are now, and it's either a lesson or it's a blessing, which is always a blessing anyway. It's like if you do something and people go in your life, and it always lands you to where you are.
With the fundamental, I think, principle there that as long as we're learning from our decisions, whether they be bad, whether they be not what we thought that they would be, whether they didn't turn out exactly the way that we thought, or they've turned out even better than we could have imagined. I just think that decisions, there's no bad decisions, only the decisions that we make.
Yeah, that's why we try to not believe in regret. Yeah,
And
because it's just
yeah.
a nasty feeling to put yourself in that's just dwelling, and that's, as my therapist once said to me brutally, why are you dwelling? That does no good for you. And I remember being like, ow, that's right though. And I was like, why am I doing this to myself? Like I can look at the things I've done, learn from some of them, and for some of them it is the chips fall where they fall sometimes.
Yeah. And you gotta, it's another cliche term that I try to stay away from those in general, but like trust the process. It's like things can happen that we don't understand how it will happen and how it'll end up. But also I think there's another lesson that I've learned is like, don't force things. If things kind of, we all have things we want to do, but you can't force. You have to like allow it to settle in over time.
Oh yeah, we definitely believe in that.
On
But
that note, we're gonna
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having us in your space and sharing kava with us.
Yeah.
Sharing the experience with us.
Thank
teaching
you.
us.
Thanks for having interest in kava and our space. It's nice chatting with you guys. But I gotta go and serve some kava now.
Go do your job. We'll take that from you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Todd.
Thank you.
And we will see you around the table again. Do you want to be our final goodbye? You want to say bye?
Bye.